And we're back on the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show, coming to you from the Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia, on the Wylde Style Network.
Yes, sir. Live, still live, coming at you live.
Coming at you live. Every other Wednesday night. So definitely, you know.
We're back in pace. We're back in a every other week pace, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, we had some live insanity happening in here.
Oh, it's great.
I know. We were overflowing in bands to talk to. We didn't get to some. We will get to them later. I know we will.
Yeah, you know, and it was great conversation. You know, what struck me, my favorite of all the conversations was with the Road Ducks.
Yeah, that was cool.
So much history there.
That was cool. Yeah,
and he was just a great storyteller. It really, I wouldn't say it was really an interview per se.
Yeah,
it was sort of like
just chilling.
Yeah, similar with Chips Enough, where, you know, you bring something up and, you know, the conversation just went.
The Road Ducks, I don't know if you remember they got all that Olive Garden food? They had like a actual buffet. So it was like a post-dinner conversation. They were like, had full bellies. They were relaxed. They were like laid back, you know, back in the couch. They were chill. And it felt like that.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So we've been talking about doing this for a little while. I think those of you that are in our age demographic probably played a version of this game at one point in time.
I've seen drinking variations of this game. Actually, there is a box game of this.
Is there?
Yeah, but it's very, I think there might be a family friendly version of just general stuff. It's like, I don't know. Would you rather have like, well, I just revealed the game is would you rather,
right?
So would you rather have, you know, like Cheeto crumbs on your fingers, like for the rest of your life, you know what I mean? Or like the burn of like an atomic fireball in your mouth the rest of your life. Like, what would you rather?
Would you rather have Pringles aftertaste in your mouth or an energy drink aftertaste in your mouth?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
we're playing a little rock and roll version of Would You Rather.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
So we each wrote a series of questions.
I got a lot of questions, but we're only going to go with 3, right?
Okay, I had a bunch, but
okay, all right. We might
3
go
or 4.
Let's go with 4.
I guess we'll go with 4.
Okay.
All right.
So I have to admit, because we're old friends, a lot of my questions are geared specific to you. So I think this is not only going to be revealing for like rock and roll, your factoids and everything you know, but also your styles and preferences. I think it's going to reveal your character, Kevin.
All right.
I
have a couple of those too.
All right.
Do
you want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay. Wow.
I have to go to the glasses though, I think.
Yeah. I think that we're going to be pausing too, because I have a feeling with that being said, you're going to throw me like some zingers that I have to think about.
So if you had to choose, would you never listen to your favorite album again or never see your favorite band live again?
Man, that's brutal. It's like a Sophie's Choice question. Like a whole. I would have to go with never listen to the favorite album again. I am such a concert junkie and live junkie.
Right.
I would never want to give up that live show. I mean, sometimes choices are made for us, right? Because like both, I immediately go to Soundgarden, who I'm never going to see live again. Maybe that drove that answer because I'm missing seeing Soundgarden live, but I can listen to Bad Motorfinger, you know, over and over again.
Right.
You know, that, by the way, that's just by a nose. That's my favorite Soundgarden. I mean, not by much. We could do a whole bottoms up on that one as a whole conversation.
Sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I probably would have gone the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there's such gaps in when we get to see bands.
I know.
So it's like, it almost feels like forever in some cases, but you can always go back to the album.
It's true.
So for me, I would probably choose to not. And then some of them, like you said, there are bands that we would love to see that we just can't anymore.
Yeah.
For one reason or another.
Yeah.
So I would have to stick with being able to listen to my music.
All right. So this is going to be a follow-up to our 1983 Bottoms Up.
Okay.
And it also is a little bit of a follow-up to the question that you asked me. I just like change the gears and courses in my questions because this is about live shows, which is what you said. Would you rather see Def Leppard in 1983 or Dio in 1984? Because Def Leppard was your number one. I'll put that in context so people did not see it. Def Leppard was Def Leppard's Pyromania with Kevin's number one bottoms up album selection for the year of 1983. I also know how much Kevin loves him some Holy Diver, which was released in,
it was in 83 too.
Yeah, that was not, Last in Line was released in 84. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Wow. That's hard. Because having seen Def Leppard pretty much in their prime.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them before Rick Allen's accident.
Right.
So, and I would imagine there was a slightly different energy there. And I've seen Dio live, but it was much later in the album releases, so I didn't see them.
You got Vivian Campbell in Dio and not in Def Leppard.
Well, that would be Steve Clark.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Another one who we'll never see again.
Right.
Wow, that's tough. Probably Dio.
Well, I had a feeling you might go that way, but you had such a strong answer to your bottoms up.
Yeah, well, again, that to a certain extent, that's going back to, the music at the time. That was when Pyromania came out. I really wasn't as aware of Dio. So, but I played that Pyromania album nonstop.
Yeah.
So,
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. I'm liking it. I like this is kind of funny because I feel like I should have asked you these questions already sometime in the course of our lives and we haven't. So no, it's very revealing.
All right. Next one. Let's see. Would you rather have a few beers with David Lee Roth or with Chris Cornell?
Oh my God. You did hit me oh my God. That would be, either experience would be amazing. I'll start there. Like that's a, in a way it's a Sophie's choice, but in a way it's not because they're like at least you win in some experience in some like great way. I mean, I guess you could see a live band say that's winning still too, but David Lee Roth's a party. Chris Cornell would just be cool. Like I mean, it's not that David Lee Roth wouldn't be cool. It's just like, that quiet, subtle, strong Chris Cornell cool. And this is not my favorite front man either. Like this answer, so I'll say that because that would be hard to choose as my man. You did hit me in the gut on that one. I was going to say a name, but then I'd change my mind as it was coming out of my mouth. I'm going to go. All right. I'll go with my initial gut. I'm going to go with Chris Cornell.
All right.
I'm like, that's painful though, Kevin. Painful to say because it would be wicked fun.
Oh yeah. Either one, but obviously, like you said, David Lee Roth, it's going to be a party. So
right.
The energy in and around all of that would just be through the roof.
Right. And but that brings Chris Cornell back from the dead.
That's true. That is true.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You going to commit to that one? You're just going to let that ride with me?
That'll ride with you.
All right. So we're about to see Alter Bridge.
Okay.
And we have seen Alter Bridge this year, and we love seeing Alter Bridge. So this is like almost in the context of the day, kind of deal. So would you rather see Miles Kennedy, the great Miles Kennedy, fronting Slash or Alter Bridge? Ooh.
That's tough because I feel a lot more chemistry between Alter Bridge.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of the band that they all formed together.
Right.
And you feel it, but seeing Slash anytime.
Yeah, I know.
Is which we're going to see him in 2 weeks too. So it's a good couple weeks coming up here for
with
live.
Guns N' Roses though.
But with Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, and I hadn't seen Miles with Slash until the last time they were here in the area. That was the first time. And to me, it was great, but for me, the focus was really on Slash. And I think within Alter Bridge, it feels much more band-esque.
Yeah.
With Alter Bridge.
I agree.
So
my girlfriend would respect that answer too.
Yeah.
She gets double eye candy. But
they were fucking good too. So I'd probably be leaning ever so slightly to Alter Bridge.
All right. I mean, that's it. That's a would you rather. You got to go one way or the other.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Next up.
I'm not going to commit. I'm going to do what you just did to me on that question.
Okay. Would you rather have all the drums sound like Saint Anger on every Metallica album?
Is this from the bottoms up?
Or would you rather have all the bass sound like Injustice for All?
This is from the bottoms up. You know, what taints me about that is that I think from that bottoms up, I very clearly like Injustice for All better than Saint Anger. And I did like Saint Anger to some degree, like more than a lot of other people that came up and played that game, like Saint Anger. So, you know, the people just outright hated that album. I don't know. I don't feel like the drums bothered me and the percussion bothered me as much in Saint Anger. I think I'd rather have in other words, I would rather hear that because I'd rather hear more bass and Injustice for All.
Sure.
You know, I wish that if there's one album to be re-recorded out there, out of any band or album that I could think of or remixed, I would go down that road. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, because we both like that album so much. Okay. Live acts. These are live acts, and you have to kind of put it in perspective. I guess live acts in their prime, you know? All right. So would you rather see live? Would you rather see the Foo Fighters or Motorhead? Because I know you haven't seen either.
Well, I think that would be kind of easy, but it's impossible, and it would be Motorhead.
Okay, that was pretty quick. I'm surprised.
Because at least right now, there's still an opportunity to see Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
But not necessarily, I mean, I guess you could argue prime or not prime. It's certainly, I mean, Josh Freese is super talented, but yeah, you won't be able to see him with Taylor, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather see Motorhead.
All right. All right.
But it won't happen. So.
All right. All right. All right. Very cool.
All right. So this is the last one?
Last round.
All right. So I got two lined up here. So I'll pick one.
I was going to say, I did a bunch, but.
Well, all right. So would you rather John Carabi be the only singer Motley Crue ever had?
Wait a minute. Or Vince?
Or Vince.
Or Vince? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You had to
pick like a permanent singer.
Yeah.
There was no interchange. Yeah. You know, because we haven't talked about the I Want to Rock yet.
Yep,
We're about to talk
that's
about
why
that.
I was going to.
I know. It's a good
bring
leeway because, I mean, the integrity that bleeds out of that guy is substantial. And I love him. And now, like, you know, and that album got a bad knock. And it's a good album. That's a good Motley Crue album.
Yep, I agree.
It's very different than the rest. I mean, because I'm going to have to go with Vince Neil because I hate to say that I wish that album never existed because after everything I just said about it, it's such a great album. It's just that, you know, Shout the Devil in terms of an album was my first love. So me personally, I'd have to go down that. I mean, Vince Neil's and all the drama in Motley is happening right now. It's a part of all of that drama, which is unfortunate. But I think probably the reward in life of what I got out of that earlier in life, like in the 80s and 90s, leads me to say Vince Neil.
I would probably agree.
All right.
So yeah, so we, you know, yep, I got one more.
Say, you got one more.
Okay.
Yeah, because you started with me, remember?
That's right.
All right. I was going to say, I mean, you know, turnaround's fair play. I got a lot here. So I might do this because Jeff Salisbury just showed up. I got one. Maybe. This actually, I'm gonna change gears because we were talking about the I Want to Rock, and this might actually be an easier question than I thought.
Okay.
Who would you rather see live? I'll go to another live question.
All right.
Winger or Warrant? Going total glam. And this is coming from a thrash guy out of the mouth of a thrash metal dude. He has to commit to either Winger or Warrant.
Well, so Winger in the earlier format, or if I had to go like right now in both bands' current state?
I say in their peak. Both of them at their peak.
Then it would be Winger.
Okay.
Because of Red Beach.
All right. Okay. Wow. Just because of one song.
No, because of the guitar player.
Red
Beach.
Look, I don't know my Winger.
Yeah, no. And funny story with that. So what was the show? I was at some show in college and I was backstage. I forget. And so there was whoever it was a band that was on Atlantic. And so the Atlantic rep was there, and they were backstage talking to people. Oh, you can't wait. This new album that's getting ready to be released. It's going to be awesome, blah, 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 blah. And you'll never guess who it is. And I knew that Winger was getting ready to release their album on Atlantic. And I had actually heard a couple of the songs at the radio station. So I was like, oh, you mean Winger? The guy was like, how'd you know that? Like, lucky guess, I suppose.
Right?
He's like, the guitar player's amazing. I'm like, so, yep. Definitely Winger.
All right, there you go. All right, well, there we go. That concludes Would You Rather, and we still have, this is going to, I think Would You Rathers can continue to pop up.
Yeah.
Whenever, however, whatever.
But so a good segue, right? We've mentioned it a couple of times, the I Wanna Rock. So for those of you that aren't aware, there's been a new documentary that was released.
Yes.
And I think Scott has the trailer, so we'll cue him to throw it up here when he gets free.
Yeah.
But it's on Paramount Plus.
Scott, the producer's hustling.
Yeah, he is hustling.
Yeah, I see if he's it's like the Flash. He should be Scott the Flash.
3 parts. So we both watched the whole thing. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic because it basically talks to the entire 80s metal scene.
Yes.
How it formed, all the bands that were involved, PMRC, as you just saw in that clip.
Yeah.
And then how some claim metal hair bands were killed.
Yeah, so like, okay, so I'm going to go like into my film critic mode here, so like I'm going to flip, gears into that. You and I have watched, I think if there is, a documentary about rock and roll and this type of genre of music, we watch it. I don't think there's probably any that you and I have ever missed unless we just simply don't have access to it.
Right.
So I think like to me, the story that you typically see in any documentary, so obviously, I think of Jake, your son, who's 25 years old and did not live, through all of these times. He sees what he sees of those times through documentaries. So it's kind of important to kind of, really kind of get a good picture of what actually happened. And most times we get the picture of the big bands, so like the ones that, they groveled at first, they did excessive amounts of drugs, they did excessive amount of women, and then they made all of these hit songs and they skyrocketed through the 80s, and all that kept perpetuating again and again and again. And then Nirvana came out and killed them. And, then they were depressed, and they were down in the, the ruts. But then it was okay because then they reunited like 15 years later. And there's the comeback and reunion tour. And that to me was the same story over and over in a lot of documentaries, which was a true story for those bands. Sure. It's not like that was wrong. That was a Motley Crue type story. But the bands they focused on when they opened up this documentary, oh my gosh, it was Janet Gardner from Vixen, the lead singer of Vixen, who is now a dental hygienist. And the opening shots of her with her hands in some guy's mouth, and doing dental work. Here's the lead singer of Vixen, like cleaning some dude's teeth, and he has no idea who she is,
right?
And what she went through in that time. And so it went outside the box of the big bands, and it focused on bands like Vixen. It had Kip Winger in it from Winger, that was the Winger tie-in. And their experience was different because they didn't achieve those super high levels of success that could sustain them through a cultural change that happened at the end of the 80s. And we'll give I'm okay with spoilers, to talk about this because that's what I think it's more accurate and makes it more different. It just doesn't talk about it from that really kind of big band male perspective. And when I even use the word male, it's not that like, Vixen was coming out like, we got to be a chick band and it's all about the girls. And, and that's how women should represent, because I think it really did well representing the fan experience. So not just, male fans, but also female fans. And I think that was important, right? Because I always talk about the breakout song of Come On, Feel the Noise in 1983 as being the first metal #1 song. And that launched all these other groups into the stratosphere as well. That was the icebreaker. That was certainly identified. That's no new news. But it also then really kind of spoke to the fact that that was music, even that wasn't a ballad at the time, because they talked about the impact of ballads, but appealed to women. It was like a melodic song. It was a melodic metal song that didn't sound like Iron Maiden, that had a feel to it that was effeminate and that women could relate to. And that audience supported, the rise of these big bands, even though they could be misogynistic. The women perspective was really kind of important. So they really did take into account different things from that other documentaries kind of overlook, in a short period of time. So like that's the start of like all the great things I found. Of course, you mentioned John Carabi with Motley Crue. His story with Motley Crue was detailed. He did a great account of everything that he went through, and that was a fantastic story for him.
I thought it was great because, I mean, you kind of know the bits and pieces, but like, you know, so like the behind the music on Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Touches on that for like 3 minutes.
Right.
Where it really kind of got in depth into his side and his experience and what he went through and how he thought, this is great. I've been struggling all these years.
Right.
I mean, he left the band, The Scream, to join Motley Crue, and The Scream were phenomenal.
Right.
I love that first album they put out.
Right.
But then, you know, so he basically bolted on those guys and joined Motley Crue. And then, you know, unfortunately it was in 89, 90.
Right.
And, you know, for a lot of reasons, it wasn't just grunge, but all the tables turned. And then Motley Crue wasn't drawing, and it's because of the new singer, and Vince needs to come back, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, you know, he handled that really well. And you could tell, like we've seen in the articles where he's talked about, I completely understand Mick's point of view, and I can see why he would think this. And he's like, no, he's like, I don't have hard feelings. I just don't want to talk about that phase of my life anymore.
Sure.
But I thought that really kind of encompassed that whole thing. And, you know, I thought he looked really good and how he was describing that. And then it showed him now, you know, he's got a couple of projects he's working on. He's out touring. So, you know, he's still doing it.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you brought up, like, you know, the crash of hard rock and metal, because that's described so many times. You know, they almost start with every time with the opening riff of Smells Like Teen Spirit. Before they even, like, it's not even that they're blaming it on one band, they blame it on the song even.
Right.
Like they simplify it into this one little point that everything changed. And you almost, to me, like, point to Come On Feel the Noise that way and say that happened to bands in 1983.
Killed New Wave.
Right, exactly. Like, where did New Wave go?
Right.
Well, then, you know, the opening drum riff of, you know, Come On Feel the Noise could kick in then at that point. And they did a really good job of, really, to me, describing what we had seen in the Stephen Pearcy comments in the press about how grunge really didn't kill metal. It was a combination of things. And to me, the big thing, and I think they pointed out in this documentary, was the songs just weren't any good. Like, people were writing mediocre songs, and other bands came along and wrote better songs, not even just grunge bands. And they pointed, I think, Ricky Rackman.
And meaningful songs. Right. You know, a lot of the grunge bands were hitting on, you know, it's sort of like when Metallica first came out, and the topics Metallica, Megadeth, a lot of the thrash bands were speaking to, which were either politics or current events or things that were really what they think the fans should be thinking about.
Right.
It wasn't cherry pie.
Right.
Or,
yeah.
You know, and that, you know, is really, and then all of the bands that were copycats of the more famous bands that couldn't write songs either. So yeah, I agree that's really what did it in.
I love Ricky Rackman pointing to country music and saying that country music was just as much to blame as grunge. And I'm 1,000% on that. I mean, you remember this, you know, I had a heavy metal girlfriend in and around that time that this all crashed. And, you know, I was hanging out with her, and all of a sudden I remember her one day buying country albums, and it wasn't just her, it was her friends. And we saw that conversion with a lot of the people, the ladies especially, that we hung out with. They transitioned into country because country was offering up something that heavy metal and hard rock wasn't any longer. I always say that, like, I compare it to, like, evolution, you know what I mean? The theory of evolution. And if you have a velociraptor, right, and then the next relative is a turkey, and then you, like, put the two side by side, like, how did the velociraptor come to the turkey? And then, like, you look at some of the details, and you kind of see, oh, a velociraptor is kind of like a turkey. That to me is like metal and country. Like, to me, if you go and see, like, Keith Urban, and I remember seeing, he was on an award show, and all of a sudden there was fire and flash pots and wailing guitar solos, and it was a country song, but that didn't look country. You know what I mean? I felt like I saw that show before, and I'm not a Keith Urban fan, but all of that was recognizable on stage. So there was a definite evolution that they pointed to that was very solid and very true. And I still feel there's a lot of people that we ran around with back in the day that were metalheads that are just as diehard into country right now, you know, as opposed to grunge.
Or friends that we had that were super into punk that were hiding their Metallica albums.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, exactly.
They didn't want.
Right.
The other thing, a couple things that I thought was interesting was the piece when they referred to the Metallica video, Nothing Else Matters, and throwing darts at the Kip
Yes,
winger.
yeah.
He was really, really kind of stuck on that.
So I saw a press article. It could have been something that we talked about, and I can't remember. Did I pass that to you? Where James Hetfield, Kip Winger has claimed that James Hetfield made a personal call to him to apologize
for throwing darts at his poster.
Yep, and really the impact that had on his career, that he like now is in a later phase in life is really kind of realizing that had a really negative impact on Kip Winger.
Well, and he brought it up in the documentary. Yeah. So, and then the other piece is, aside from, the lack of quality music killing the hair metal scene, MTV is really what killed it.
Yeah.
Because they flipped the switch.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting in the documentary. They talk about that, but this documentary was produced by MTV.
Right.
So I was like, wow, this is interesting. And there was like no rebuttal from MTV, but it was totally that way because we lived through that, and as soon as, but the interesting part about Smells Like Teen Spirit and grunge and all that, because that was building for a long time before it ever broke.
You and I, Kevin, like I have you as my witness, and I was your witness, and vice versa. We were listening to a lot of those bands before 1991, before that Smells Like Teen Spirit,
because that album, that Nevermind, came out
a
long time before it ever hit MTV. And at the Virginia Tech radio station, we were playing that in heavy rotation, and we had this massive speaker that blared out into the media wing of the building that the radio station's in. And as that song's playing and people are walking by and they're like, turn this shit off, this sucks. I kind of equated it to when we were freshmen moving in at Virginia Tech, and you walk past the dorms and every open window was playing Sweet Child of Mine.
Yes.
And they're like, this band, they're a new band, they're awesome, they're great. And it's like,
the record's been out a year.
They're not really that new. So it was kind of that same way, but it was just interesting how that switch flipped, and it went from, the metal bands to it was grunge and hip hop, and it was. And then
country,
then new metal.
Yeah.
But weren't playing too much country on MTV. But
well, yeah, right, yeah.
But they kind of did it in, because that was unlike today. That's where when we were young teens and young adults, that's where we were going. Not for all, but a good part of
new
music, current events, pop culture.
No streaming service.
Yeah, it's nothing like that now.
That was the streaming service. That was you had to stream on your TV, only when you're in front of your TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting because, I guess a couple of days ago was the 40th anniversary of the launch of MTV.
Yes.
I think it was the 31st of July. So someone put a couple memes up on, I refuse to call it X, but on Twitter. And on that day, and the comments were hilarious because it's like, yep, MTV was great. 13 years of music. Thanks for all.
Yes.
Thanks for 13 great years of music. So I thought that was hilarious.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely. If you haven't already, you should check out I Wanna Rock.
It's on Paramount Plus right now.
Yep, Paramount Plus.
You know how things with streaming services go. It probably won't stay there. Probably float to wherever, in another 6 months. But so when you get your opportunity, whatever streaming service you have, I Wanna Rock is probably one of the best 80s rock documentaries I have seen.
I agree. It was awesome.
My humble opinion.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that's good, Kevin.
That's wrapping us up, right?
Yeah. We'll let you guys know how this kick show goes.
Yep.
Bottle and cork.
Super excited.
Mr. Salisbury has arrived. Look, he looks refreshed, hungry, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I spaced out. I was thinking I needed to be here 7:30 for the shows, and then I was like, crap, they're doing the show.
We missed you, brother, but we still talked about you.
I appreciate it.
Just don't be late tomorrow.
I can't. I have a meeting with Monster and Coca-Cola at 10:30, so I'm going to have to meet you guys somewhere.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Another sponsor.
Right. There we go.
We'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so thanks if you joined us live, thanks for joining again every other Wednesday night, and hopefully we'll be out of Facebook jail soon.
Yeah.
But check us out on our TikTok channel, our Instagram channel, and
standupandshout.com.
Stand Up and Shout rockshow.com.
Ah, yeah. Don't go to, Stand Up Shout. I don't know where that would take you.
Probably nowhere.
Yeah. Stand Up and Shout rock
To an
show.
offer to buy it.
.com. Yeah, probably.
Buy this domain.
Yeah.
But coming up on the Wylde Style Network, we got our friends with Notebook Wagering.
Yeah.
Wednesday night is the live show night, and then a little bit later.
Don't bet against the Notebook Wagering guy. I'll just say that. I'll just say I had an experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then a Tribe Called Jess.
Yeah.
So check out the other programs on the Wylde Style Network, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks. See ya.